I realized I had been replaced before I realized I was being replaced. That was the impossible part. Not the replacement itself, but the fact that it had already happened while I was still present. I was sitting at the kitchen table, the same table I had owned before he moved in, the same chair, the same light coming through the window at the same hour. Nothing was missing. Nothing was broken. Nothing looked wrong. And yet the life I thought I was inside was already continuing without me. I did not feel fear. I did not feel anger. I felt something colder than both, confusion without urgency. I remember thinking that this must be what it feels like to die slowly without anyone noticing, including yourself. How could a person even end up here? That question did not come as panic, it came as a practical concern, like noticing a crack in a wall and wondering how long it had been there. I had allowed so much to shift quietly that the final position felt almost logical. I am not telling this to explain what happened. I am telling it to explain why I did not stop it. Because nothing about it arrived violently. Nothing demanded resistance. Nothing announced itself as a threat. It arrived like a solution. At first, everything looked like improvement. When I met him, I was tired in the specific way adults get tired. Not overwhelmed, just constantly adjusting. I had learned how to be efficient with myself, how to fold irritation into silence, how to step aside emotionally to keep things moving. He admired this about me. At least that is what he said. He said I was calm. He said I did not overreact. He said he felt peaceful around me. I liked being described that way. It felt earned. I had spent years becoming someone who did not need much. Not much reassurance, not much attention, not much space. I could make myself small without feeling diminished. Or so I thought. At the beginning, he seemed grateful for this. He would say things like, "I do not know how you stay so balanced," or "You make things easier." Those words mattered to me more than I admitted. They suggested that my restraint was valuable, that my silence was a contribution. I had always believed that love was something you make room for, not something that pushes back. So I made room. When he moved into my apartment, it felt temporary. Even after his clothes filled the closet, even after his toothbrush stayed by the sink. I told myself that permanence was an illusion anyway, that flexibility was maturity. I did not notice that my habits began adjusting around his preferences. I drank my coffee earlier because he liked the kitchen quiet. I watched different shows because he found mine irritating. I answered messages faster so he would not feel ignored. None of this felt like loss. It felt like cooperation. I had always believed compromise was invisible when done correctly. He never asked me to change. That is important. He never said, "Stop doing this." He never said, "Be less of that." He simply reacted. A sigh when I spoke too long. A pause when I expressed uncertainty. A slight withdrawal when I insisted on something that did not align with his mood. He did not punish. He recalibrated. And I adjusted. This is where it becomes difficult to explain without sounding naive. I was aware, just not alarmed. Each adjustment felt reasonable in isolation. Each moment contained its own logic. If I speak less, the conversation flows better. If I decide faster, he feels calmer. If I care less about small things, we avoid conflict. I told myself I was choosing peace. And for a while, it worked. Our life together looked stable from the outside. Friends commented on how compatible we seemed, how easy. I nodded when they said that. I had worked hard to make it true. What I did not say was that ease can become erasure if no one is paying attention. The first time I noticed something was wrong, it did not feel dramatic. I realized I could not remember the last decision I had made without checking his reaction first. Not asking, checking. I would imagine his response before my own. Would he be tired? Would he think it was unnecessary? Would it disrupt the quiet? This internal preview ran automatically. It saved time, It reduced friction. It also meant that my own preferences began arriving pre-filtered. I told myself this was empathy. That is the lie I lived inside for a long time. Empathy does not erase the self. It only expands awareness. What I was doing was something else. I was translating myself into something easier to accept. I was becoming fluent in absence. He never told me who to be. That would have been easier to resist. Instead, he rewarded the version of me that took up less space. A soft smile when I stayed quiet, a relaxed posture when I agreed quickly, warmth when I did not ask for more. I learned the pattern, and because I am not stupid, I recognized it. But recognition is not the same as interruption. I told myself that relationships shape us, that this was normal. People say that love changes you. They rarely specify how much. By the time I felt the first real discomfort, I had already built an identity around being adaptable. If I resisted, who would I become? Someone difficult, someone demanding, someone who disrupts peace. I had spent years proving I was not that person. The idea of suddenly insisting on myself felt like betrayal. So I waited. Waiting became my primary action. I waited for the moment when my discomfort would become undeniable, when something would cross a clear line. That moment never arrived. Instead, the lines kept moving. I stopped initiating plans. Then I stopped suggesting ideas. Then I stopped noticing that I had stopped. This did not feel like sadness. It felt like neutrality. There is a dangerous comfort in neutrality. You stop expecting joy, so you stop noticing its absence. I began to feel proud of how little I needed. Pride is often mistaken for strength. He started finishing my sentences. At first playfully, then habitually. I laughed it off. I told myself it meant he knew me well. But what he was finishing were the simplified versions of my thoughts, the ones I had already edited for convenience. When I tried to expand, to add nuance, he would look confused or bored. So I stopped expanding. I told myself I was being efficient. This is how replacement happens quietly, not by force, but by optimization. One day I realized that if I disappeared, the structure of our life would remain intact. He would still wake up at the same time, still drink his coffee the same way, still sit on the same side of the couch. There was nothing in the routine that required my specific presence. Any calm woman would do. Any agreeable shape. This thought did not hurt immediately. It felt theoretical, like noticing a design flaw in a system you no longer fully identify with. The pain came later. The pain arrived when I noticed how easily he spoke over me in front of others, how naturally my silence fit into the dynamic. Friends would ask him questions about things I had handled. He would answer confidently. I would nod. No one noticed the shift. Not even me, at first. I had become so practiced at agreement that disagreement felt foreign in my own mouth. When I tried to express something difficult, my voice sounded unfamiliar. Too loud, too sharp. I would retreat mid-sentence. I told myself I needed to choose my battles. But I had stopped choosing altogether. The midpoint break did not come as a fight. It came as a moment of clarity so quiet it almost escaped me. I was standing in the bathroom, brushing my teeth, when I realized I could not remember the last time I had been alone with my thoughts without translating them for someone else. Even in solitude, I was performing. I caught myself rehearsing conversations that would never happen, softening words that no one would hear. I stared at my reflection and felt nothing recognizable. Not panic, not grief, just absence. That was the moment I understood that I had already accepted replacement. Not by another person, but by a version of myself designed for compatibility. I had allowed that version to take over because it felt safer. Safer than asking for more. Safer than risking rejection. Safer than disrupting the calm I had worked so hard to build. I did not confront him, not because I was afraid of his response, but because I already knew it. He would look surprised, genuinely. He would say he had no idea I felt that way, that he thought we were fine. And he would be right. We were fine. That is the most dangerous state a person can be in. Fine leaves no evidence. Fine leaves no urgency. Fine allows years to pass unnoticed. I began to see my own behavior clearly, how I preemptively minimized myself, how I rewarded his comfort with my silence, how I mistook being needed less for being valued more. This awareness did not immediately change anything. Awareness without action can become its own trap. I stayed, not because I hoped it would improve, but because leaving would require explaining something I could barely articulate to myself. How do you say, "I disappeared gradually and let it happen"? How do you explain a loss with no single cause? So I stayed, and in staying, I became even quieter, not out of fear, out of resignation. I stopped expecting to be seen. That expectation had caused too much friction internally. It was easier to accept the role I had practiced, the calm one, the flexible one, the one who does not complicate things. I was very good at it. There is a strange relief in accepting erasure. You stop fighting gravity, but relief is not peace. It is just the absence of struggle. Eventually, something shifted again, not externally, internally. I stopped feeling responsible for maintaining the illusion. I no longer adjusted as carefully, not because I asserted myself, but because I no longer cared enough to perform. And this confused him. He asked if something was wrong. I told him no. That was the truth. Nothing was wrong. Nothing was left. When I finally left, it was unremarkable. No confrontation, no closure. I packed my things quietly, the ones that still felt like mine. He watched, puzzled. He asked if I was sure. I said yes. He nodded. We hugged. It was polite. Outside, the world continued exactly as before. And that was the point. I had not been replaced by someone else. I had replaced myself with someone easier. And once that replacement was complete, my presence was no longer required. This is not a story about him. He did not take anything from me. I gave it away in small, reasonable pieces. This is a story about how silence can feel like strength, how adaptation can feel like love, how absence can masquerade as peace. I am not angry, I am not sad, I am simply aware. And awareness, once it arrives, does not offer comfort. It only offers clarity. I live alone now. I make decisions slowly, deliberately. I let discomfort exist without resolving it immediately. I speak even when my voice shakes, not because it feels good, but because it feels real. The quiet is still here, but it belongs to me now, and I know the difference. If you stayed until the end, I appreciate you. Like the video and subscribe if you want to hear more stories like this.